Hi, my name is Santra Denis, and I'm with the Miami Workers Center, and we're here for another Fem Saturday. I'm super excited to be joined by Valencia Gunther, CEO of the Smile Trust, campaign director at New Florida Majority, and we're going to have a great time talking about all things gender, race, and the criminal justice system. Before we continue, we'll get some information from our interpreters who will give specific instructions in Spanish and in Creole.
Buenos días, mi nombre es María Angélica, mis pronombres son ella y ellex y hoy les estamos ofreciendo interpretación en español y en criollo haitiano con Marble Language Services. La razón por la cual les estamos ofreciendo interpretación el día de hoy es porque el Centro de Trabajadores de Miami tiene una visión de justicia lingüística en sus espacios. Eso quiere decir que podemos tanto participar como recibir la información el día de hoy en el idioma en el que nos sintamos más cómodos. Entonces, si hoy ustedes quisieran recibir esta información en español, pueden llamar al número que está en los comentarios y ponen el PIN que está en el número. Van a poder escuchar a lo largo del programa la información en español y si tienen alguna pregunta, también la pueden hacer por medio del chat o también de la línea de interpretación y con mucho gusto comunicaremos sus preguntas y comentarios en inglés. Gracias. Ahora, I will pass the mic to Rose.
Hello, bonjour. Donc, moi, c'est Rose. Moi, c'est interprète en créole. Je travaille avec collègue moi, Maria Angelica, et nous prenons la interprétation en espagnol et en créole. Je dis en raison qui fait que nous toujours fait et nous assurer nous que tout le monde est capable de comprendre dans la langue maman et papa. C'est ça qui fait que nous fait interprétation ça yo pour le monde capable de participer dans le niveau que est capable dans la langue pa yo. Et parce que nous toujours bataille pour justice langue. Et donc, si que nous avez toute présentation ça, et pour nous participer tout en créole haïtien, tant pis, les numéros ça qui paraît sur l'écran nous. C'est 319, donc 319 343 8930. Et puis, nous mettez PIN, numéro PIN, c'est 67 23 49 1 9-3, et puis n'a pesé et signe dièse là, symbole numéro A. Après, tant pis, si que nous avons une question, tant pis, fais-moi connaître ça dans téléphone là, pour être capable de poser question pour nous en anglais. Si que nous avons un problème, nous devons écrire ça sous chat là, pour nous capable, pour nous aider nous. D'accord? Et merci en pile et nous là maintenant nous appel dans numéro A tant pis relais le que nous capable. Merci.
Thank you so much. So we're going to get right into it, Valencia. Happy Saturday, everyone. We know it's early, but we want to go ahead and go there and then make sure that we can get folks on to the rest of their day. So V, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and why you do this work.
Sure. I'm Valencia Gunther again, everybody, or V, she, her pronouns, and I am a Miami native community activist and advocate. I am proud to hold the position as the director and founder of the Smile Trust, which is a food safety and food insecurity organization that assists unsheltered and underserved individuals around the country and now the global South when it comes to food insecurities all throughout the year and especially during disaster relief. I also have the privilege of holding the title as the campaign director at the New Florida Majority, which is an independent political organization that fights for political education and political participation in our democracy. And we push to create a new democracy with the sunshine for everybody in the Sunshine State of Florida. I also am a proud co-founder of the Black Collective, which is now a new political home that we created for the entire Black diaspora here in the state of Florida to uplift our concerns as it relates to our democracy and our needs here locally, statewide, and regionally. And I am known to do many, many things, big mouth, relentless, rigorous, sister that cares a lot about people in general. Sometimes that look like passing out plates, and sometimes that look like passing out legislation, you know. But wherever I'm needed in whatever capacity, I'm there to assist. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday morning with us. I think that I wanted to share. I saw a meme last week, and it said all the children who talk too much or had big mouths in school. Look at us now, because I was truly one of them.
Yeah.
Who got good grades but was talkative, and so I can only imagine that those report cards are going home as well.
The 3 in the middle, you know, you had the A1A. Mine used to be like A3B, and my grandma used to be like, "How?" And I'm like,
"Yeah,
I did the work, but I talked my head off. I couldn't stop."
Absolutely. So today's topic is really around gender, race, and criminal justice. And ever since I've known you, I've always known you to be very passionate, or seen you at least from afar and sometimes closely, really advocating and being on the forefront of what Black women and femme are experiencing in the criminal justice system. Can you kind of give us like an overview of the work that you've been doing in the system?
Sure. So, for those who don't know, I'm a returning citizen. Back in 2010, I was convicted of passing a bad check for my college tuition. I did it. I'm not going to lie, but I didn't feel as if I deserved to be incarcerated for doing that. Nonetheless, I always felt as if the criminal justice system had, you know, disproportionately affected Black people. And then my family specifically, my mom had been to prison twice. And then I was facing prison time. And then my brother actually went to prison also. So like became generationally. And as I got into this work, one, always been talking, always been pushing. But one, grew my leadership in the criminal justice world back in 2016 when I first started working at New Florida Majority, specifically around the push for Amendment 4. Before it was even called Amendment 4, when people were calling it Let My People Vote, you know, that's the beginning stages of it. And even in that space, even though Amendment 4 was amazing, and I'm so proud to have been a part of that work under the leadership of people like Desmond Meade, folks around the state, it still was very evident that it was a male-focused conversation. It was a male-focused conversation, male-led conversation. And when I started looking at the statistics, like Black women specifically, and then brown women, just like how it is, how the demographics line up for men, it was lining up for women. And over 80% of the women that are incarcerated are Black. Right. And then also, while the country is like bragging about criminal justice reform and decarceration and abolition, women are not being included in those conversations. You know, the only president that we recognize, which is Barack Obama, when he pardoned folks, you know, he did something, pardoning so many folk at the time, more than any other president before him. And it was only like, I think he released like upward to like 1,500 folk, and less than 100 of them were women.
Wow.
So majority of the folk he was releasing were men. And I do want to stop and say that men, especially Black men, are, you know, unfairly pushed into the criminal justice system. That is a thing, right? And I'm not going to knock that. But at the same time, we also need to know and understand that we do not shine a light of what's happening to women while incarcerated when it comes to chances of being released and having opportunities after incarceration is a small number. And we are usually left out of the conversation. Even when there's a chance for us to speak out, it's usually in partnership with the man or led by a man. And after Amendment 4, I was just like, this is great. Amendment 4 was amazing. And I had spoke at a conference in 2017.
Wait. What's Amendment 4?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. So Amendment 4 was a ballot initiative that was passed in 2018. Florida was one of the few states that did not have what they call automatic clemency, meaning after you serve your time, after you do your probation, certain rights are automatically restored. Not Florida. Florida, like once you become a felon, you're forever a felon, and you forever lose your rights unless you go to the state and pretty much beg bloody murder for them to give you your rights back, which is very dehumanizing in its own right. And we fought for Amendment 4, and it passed. And although we still fighting to make sure they don't touch it no more, that's what Amendment 4 was. Apparently, over 70% of Floridians thought it was a good idea. So thank you all, everybody who decided to vote in favor of Amendment 4. It was a very grassroots effort, and it was amazing. 2017, I'm a Soros Justice Fellow, and I was up in Detroit at a conference with them, and they asked me to tell my story of what was the word they used, of not liberation but restoration, a story of restoration. And before then, I had never shared my story of my incarceration publicly because I was definitely afraid. Because for those who don't know, having a felony is like walking around with a scarlet letter on your chest, right? Like you can't get certain housing, you can't get certain jobs, and you can't get certain opportunities. So that was something that I always suppressed. Mm-hmm. And then so I shared my story, and I was on stage. When I got off stage, all of these women in the room were formerly incarcerated. I mean, it was women in there who was on death row, who got pardoned by presidents, to people who have gotten raped and only served a week in jail, you know? And these women were like, we're fighting around the country to do this thing. And I had shared my story of when I was incarcerated, how I was denied sanitary napkins while I was on my cycle. And to see all these women approach me, and they were like, listen, that happened to me also. And these are women from around the world. Wow. And they were like, yeah, you know, they do give us a pad. It's these little small pads. And if you have more than what they allow you to have, this considered contraband and all of these things, right? And I understood the language because I remember that. Like I remember being at BSO. I was being extradited from Miami to Leon County. Mm-hmm. And in every jail or facility that they bounced me to doing my extradition, I was denied sanitary napkins. I was denied things. Some places denied soap.
I'm hoping she comes back.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry. After sharing my story, some folks explained to me what the dignity bill was. And I was like, we're going to pass that in the state of Florida. But I waited until Amendment 4 was passed in 2018, and then we carried the legislation 2019.
Tell us about the dignity bill.
Yeah. So the Dignity for Incarcerated Women Act we have this steering amazing committee coalition that the Miami Worker Center is a part of since its inception. It's called Dignity Florida, and it is a group of organizations, but led by a group of formerly incarcerated women and girls that fights for legislation around criminal justice and prison reform work, specifically related to women and girls incarceration. We decided that we wanted to push the Dignity for Incarcerated Women Act in the state of Florida. The Dignity for Incarcerated Women Act is this simple. A lot of people think that it already happens, but it wasn't. It was to give women literally an unlimited and free access to sanitary and hygiene products. So that's soap, deodorant, lotion, pads, and tampons. And for our elders that are inside depends. Mm-hmm. Right? we also, in that same bill, pushed the fact that male officers should not be patrolling or watching over women in a state of undress. Right? When women are brought into facilities, they are strip searched, usually the squat, cough, bend over, and sometimes that is being held and conducted by men. I was strip searched in Miami-Dade County by a man. That is dangerous. Most women who are incarcerated have been sexually assaulted, that are survivors of domestic violence. Most of them are in there for fighting against patriarchy, right? And then to be brought into the system and being forced to undress in that capacity in front of a man is one thing. And then also, you should not be going into the bathrooms. Why are you walking into the showers or in the bathrooms while women are undressed and trying to take care of their self and their health and their hygiene, right? Like, why is that a place? And I understand things happen inside of these spaces, but it's women officers who can go in and patrol those things. So we push for that. And in 2019, we were successful. We passed every committee unanimously. We passed all 3 floor votes unanimously, and it was signed by the governor in 2019 and went into effect July 1st, 2019. And we got reports back as close as like the first week of August that women were receiving the tampon.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's phenomenal. I mean, so off the high of Amendment 4, we went into dignity. Are there other things that you all are working on, or we are working on, that you want to talk about? What else are folks experiencing that maybe there's been kind of a challenge really passing in the state legislature?
Yeah. So, the day we found out that dignity passed, which was great, we're celebrating. We get a phone call from a reporter telling us about Tammy Jackson. I got a phone call, and I was like, excuse me? Like, I was just thrown off because in the state of Florida, shackling was banned in 2012, I believe. And we found out that women are still being shackled while giving birth in Florida jails and prisons. And then when I found out about Tammy Jackson is a Black woman who was forced to have her baby in solitary confinement at a Broward jail. And I took it to the steering committee, and everybody was just like, we need to dig into this. We need to do it. And then I put the word out to see if it was more women who had it, and it was so many women came forward. And it was at that point, without a shadow of a doubt, this was something we wanted to do. So we filed the Tammy Jackson Act 2020. And we pushed, and again, we were unanimously passed through all committees and floor votes, and just was signed into law on July 1st. That went into action. But the thing was with Tammy Jackson, the challenge is the fact that Tammy Jackson was not the perfect poster child, right? And I say this to say, and we see this oftentimes in movement and in politics, right? You want a person who went through something, but then you also want a person you could pitch, right? Mm-hmm. And even when it came before Incarcerated Women Act, I was using my story to push the legislation, and then other women's story too, but like I had somewhat became like the poster child. And because I'm VE and the work I do in community and all of these things, that's sometimes easier to swallow, right? But Tammy Jackson was not that. Tammy Jackson suffers from mental illness. Mm-hmm. She still suffers from addiction. Mm-hmm. She has had a lot of run-ins with law, right? And even the reason why she was incarcerated at the time, may have raised the eyebrow or two. But then I also had to push myself, the steering committee, and community to understand this. Incarceration is the punishment.
Right.
You should not be getting punished again while incarcerated. Right. And so that's what we had to make people understand. I don't care what Tammy was locked up for, how many times she had been locked up. Her being inside of the facility was the punishment already. Right. So now the fact that you denied her medical assistance, denied her her rights to a healthy, safe delivery of her child, putting another Black child in jeopardy while in custody of the state was a problem. And in Tallahassee, we was getting pushback like, we like the bill, but does it need to be called Tammy Jackson? Absolutely. Yes, because that's her lived experience, right? I will hold her name up. I will write it, put it on my chest if I need to. And then that was one of the biggest challenges, because they were like, we like the legislation. We think what you guys are saying are true, but it was giving us pushback on this Black woman's story. And I'm like, we're not changing the story we're using. We're not changing the name of it. Like, we had to really, really push, because they would do that all the time. Like, find another poster child. It ain't your job to find a poster child, right? And honestly, we don't do our work to have a poster child. But Tammy Jackson's story, after talking to her family and Tammy, they allowed us to use her story. And we're not going to disappoint her family, disrespect her community, and disrespect the people who are fighting and standing up on beside us, right? And it was such a headache with this bill, because dignity really wasn't that bad. Like, it went in everything. Like, the Secretary of Department of Corrections came out and co-sponsored that one. But the Tammy Jackson bill was a problem, right? Because y'all know, well, who don't know, men think they control women's vaginas and uteruses. Like, it's ridiculous. And it showed up in this bill all through it. Like, they were challenging some of the language, even when we were deciding to define what a woman was.
Right.
Right? Because we have trans brothers and sisters that are being forced and locked up in these spaces. And if our legislation is not impacting them, we're not doing our job fully, right? And we had to really, really push when it came to this one piece of legislation. And we ended up getting it done, right? And it's still called the Tammy Jackson bill, right? It's in law as that. And it was just like, this time around, just the push around the conversation, but it took for us to push it to educate people.
Right.
Everybody, that's just like when a Black man is killed by the police. We don't care if he committed 20 crimes. At the time when you approached him, you violated his rights, period. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if a person is locked up inside of a jail for the rest of their life. That is the punishment. They should not be getting beat up, tortured, or murdered while they're inside of there. They should not. So that's the same thing for women. Like, that's what we've been pushing. Like, we know that women do sex work. We know that this happens, that happens. That does not mean that they deserve to be mistreated. And a lot of times in the system, in these and even sometimes we have to push this narrative within the movement to let them know that women, first of all, this is our body. We do what we want to do with it. And then while incarcerated, we still do what we want to do with it. It's our bodies, right? And it should not be violated. And then if I'm gonna be under the state, what's the word? The state, yeah, we still deserve our due diligence, right? I still deserve soap. I still deserve a pad. I still deserve access to communication. I still deserve access to medical assistance if I'm pregnant, right? And then, like, Tammy Jackson was so strong, even through her addiction, even through her mental illnesses. She gave birth to a child in a cell.
Wow.
I don't have no children, right? So I can only imagine the pain in the fight and what she was going through mentally. Like, honestly, to see Tammy still walking around, she survived, because I don't know if I would have been able to survive something of that magnitude. And it's so disheartening that we even had to explain this to people to get them to understand, like, what happened was not right. It's happening to entirely too many women, and it needs to be changed. And it's just disheartening that Florida is still in the Stone Ages. But Tammy Jackson was the only criminal justice legislation passed in 2020.
Wow. I think you nailed it, V. I am super excited about the work that you all are doing. And just like my commentary, I had a chance to go to the museum in Montgomery where Brian Stevenson's lynching museum. And, there was a shirt that I purchased that said, I'm bigger or more than the worst decision I've ever made.
Right.
And I love that because, what you're pushing or what the coalition is pushing is also, even in our imperfection, we still have rights.
Right.
So even the most imperfect person have rights, and those rights shouldn't be violated. And even though sometimes it's hard for us as community to see our folks who have, even in their imperfection, where they've made mistakes, or they've done things that may have disappointed us, they still have rights in these United States.
Right.
So how do we honor that? And also, how do we look at ourselves and say, look, when it's our family member, when it's us, when it's me, when it's Santra, when it's V, and folks know us and they know the best part of us, how do we stand up for people when the mistakes show up? And I think that's something that not only movement, but the criminal justice system is really having to grapple with. And I'm so happy that, we pushed the community as well as the state. We stood by making sure that, it actually was Tammy. Her and her imperfections, she still has rights, and those shouldn't be pushed apart.
That's right.
Let's talk also about Black Mama's Bailout.
Oh, yeah. Black Mama Bailout. So the Black Mama Bailout is a new thing that we just started doing as a coalition, Dignity Florida Coalition. But it's something that's been going on in our country for a long while. The first Black Mama Bailout, I think, was done 4 years ago, was actually a vision to Mary Hooks, the director of Southerners on New Ground in Atlanta. And they also created the National Organization, which is an amazing coalition of folk on a national level who have fundraised, and they grant dollars down to the ground for us to do these bailouts. Here in South Florida, a few other orgs did bailouts that have been great. And we decided to join the ranks. And this year we did the Black Mama Bailout, and we decided to bail out women in Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade County. We bailed out a total of 6 women. I know some people may think that's small, but the best part about it was, 1, we didn't pay a bail bondsman. We paid their bail directly, cash. 2, each one of them have case managers and bail buddies. And 3, they all received wraparound services, 4 wraparound services. So we made sure that everybody had safe housing. We make sure people are getting jobs. We're making sure they're getting treatment if they need it, if it's alcoholism or addiction to drugs. We are making sure people get the therapy they need, and also just creating a village around them to make sure that they don't go back into the system. Because a lot of people don't understand, like, people become repeat offenders because we keep putting them in the same situations, right? We know, we have studies and all the things to know that women specifically, usually are incarcerated for only a few things. 1, for protecting themselves against domestic violence. 2, they are either doing crimes of passion because they're hurt. And 3, they're doing crimes for survival. All right. I need to feed my family, so I got to go out here and do this thing. I need to do this thing. And I'm not saying every single woman, but majority, the vast majority. And I believe when we were doing the bailout, we were thinking about all of those things, right? So the women that we bailed out were great. We bailed out from cis women to trans men. And it's just been a great, great experience. It's been tough because it's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work to get people who, and we didn't try to find the picture perfect people, right? I don't know why our committee just thinks that we got to go find the hardest cases to deal with. But we found women who needed help, women and folks who needed help. And we were able to get people on their feet. We're still working at it. It's still something that's still new. We did it on Mother's Day, y'all. So we got all of these folks out on that Sunday, paid their bills. By 12 p.m., everybody was out of the facility, at home or wherever their safe space were. And we have then we have raised almost 20,000 additional dollars to help these women get stabilized. Um, it's been a great thing to see everybody turn on their superpowers. Like we have folks like Trinice, who's a board member, longtime member of Miami Worker Center, who's case managing. We have people from the Southern Birth Justice Network who's case managing and bail buddies and Fed Fem for Life and New Florida Majority. And it's just so many organizations that came to the table. Soul Sisters, who are amazing partners, who came to the table, who wanted to be a part of the magic. And we are planning on to continue to bail Black women out. And if you all want to help out, it's so many different ways. I'm quite sure you can go to the Miami Worker Center page and they'll tell you how to be a part of it and to support it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Can you talk a little bit more about the bail system? Because I'm not sure if folks haven't necessarily encountered or interacted with the criminal justice system in that kind of way. They may be unfamiliar with what bail is and how cash bail keeps a lot of folks, nonviolent folks, in jail for no reason.
Right. So I think it's upward to like 72% of people who are sitting in jail are in there for nonviolent offenses. And also, most people are sitting in there because they just can't afford bail, right? And I always tell people that bail is not about safety. Bail is all about money. It's all about money, because if it was safety, you wouldn't let me go, right? If you thought I was going to harm somebody when I walked out of that jail, you would not release me. But if you're willing to release me if I could pay a check, that means that this has nothing to do with the safety of community, the safety of me or my family. It has everything to do with lining your pockets, capitalism. So bail, for those who don't know or may not know, that is the fine or the dollar amount that is put toward your charge for you to be released temporarily on charges or whatever the reason why you were, arrested in the first place. We use sometimes the language of nonviolent offenders. I kind of be skeptical of that a little bit, because like I can like get into an argument with my neighbor and have a plastic bottle in my hand, and I hit the plastic bottle on the gate. Now I'm a violent offender. Like, yes, like it could be that simple. It's not always like, oh, they murdered somebody. It's not always the case, right? That number is very, very minimal. For real. The way we look at bail is the fact that it needs to go. We don't feel as if people should be having to pay bail. If their crime or whatever it is you brought them, their violation in, it would be fitting for a bail. That means that you could just release them. That's how I feel.
Or there wouldn't be a bail.
Huh?
Or there wouldn't be a bail.
Right. It's something, the bail system is a whole fraud. It's just been there since I've known about the prison and jail system or whatnot. But it also disenfranchises folks, right? Poor people, underserved folks, under-resourced folks are usually the ones that are affected by that. And guess who that is? Black and brown folk, period. And it's something that we have been trying to fight and shift. So alongside of the Black Mama Bailout and all of these bailouts that you all see is a back end fight of trying to end cash bail. We're trying to end cash bail. Some cities have been successful. Some have not. We have not been successful in South Florida yet, but we are definitely using the vehicle of the bailouts to bring awareness to the cash bail system to try to change that.
Absolutely. A few months ago, I was doing a lot of research on fines and fees in our system, and where there's overcode, like when folks are overemphasizing code enforcement, or what people are being fined for in terms of driver's licenses, all that money that's in the system, and who's really most impacted by those systems. And we know that so many of our communities, Black people, brown people, are getting so many fines that they can never get ahead. And this again speaks to the inequalities in the system.
Right. Fines and fees, that's such a huge one. And New for the Majority, we have this thing called a dollar trap. It's a board game to teach people about fines and fees. We have some people that's on our steering committee that their restitution was $500, and then the fines and fees that attached it to the restitution put their total fees at $4,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And then our state has this law that allows the clerks to sell our debt to private debtors. And then they can add an additional 40% surcharge onto that.
So you're never getting out of it.
You never get out of it unless you hit the lottery or you come up on a whole lot of money and able to pay it all off in lump sum. It's ridiculous. I did the due diligence alongside my partners where we literally went down all of the line items of this one sister's fines and fees, and it was ridiculous. Like, she was like, friends of the sheriff's Christmas program.
On the fine?
Yes. It was all type of foolishness. Like, they charge these people to pay for officers who need to go visit families. Like, they do, it's ridiculous. Like, some of the stuff that people are paying fines for, it has nothing to do with their charge, nothing to do with nothing. And restitution and fines and fees are two completely different things. And that's been one of the biggest arguments around this fight with Amendment 4 that we're facing right now. They came back with a loophole saying, like, if you didn't pay your fines and fees off, you could not vote. And that's not fair, because at my sentencing, right, my restitution is listed, not fines and fees.
Right.
So I wasn't sentenced to fines and fees. I was sentenced to pay restitution, right? So if my restitution is $300 or $1,300, that's all I should have to pay for me to be able to participate in democracy again, right? That's a part of paying your debt back to society. Restitution goes back to the victim, right? I stole a thing. This is how much the thing costs per se to say. I pay the thing back, right? Fines and fees is I'm on probation and I gotta pay the probation officer for taking my 10-minute meeting. And I have to pay whatever sheriff to go on vacation and all of these other things, right? And that is the part where we're having the debate. My fines and fees were given to me after my sentence, right? Those fees, you learn about those fees the first day you go inside of the probation office. That is not given to you inside of the courts. And that's, to me, where the argument is lying. Like, I should not have to pay fines and fees, or I should not, my rights should not be held back for something that is a civil matter now,
right?
Not a criminal matter.
Absolutely.
And we are trying our hardest to figure out how to, like, change all of these things, because some people will owe fines and fees for the rest of their life. And the reason why they could sell the fines and fees to private debtors, because it's a civil matter. If I owe the bank money, I didn't rob the bank, but if I owe the bank, like if I'm late on my mortgage, they can sell it to a debt collector, and I have to pay that. But that's something that I cannot go to jail for. It may be a strike on my credit, but it's not a criminal defense. It's not a criminal offense. So I want people to dig into the fact that they're trying to use this as a thing. Like, I don't have to pay my debt back to be a part of society. I need to pay back my restitution. That be paid back. And some people may even argue that, right? But for right now, right, in this context we're in at the moment, the conversation is debating whether people are forced to pay fines and fees to be able to vote, or pay just a restitution and complete their probation. And that's why people are calling it a poll tax. You're trying to make me pay a debt, a civil matter to participate in democracy.
Right.
That is everything to do with Jim Crow laws. That is everything to do with racism. That is everything to do with oppression and white supremacy and capitalism. That has nothing to do with holding people accountable for harming folks, right? I get it, understand paying restitution to the victim,
Mm-hmm.
to the victim. The person that I harmed, because we know, like even in restorative justice, right? That's something that the Miami Workers Center practices in New Florida majority, well, all the orgs I'm a part of. And our thing is, if you harm somebody, you're going to have to be accountable to them. You're going to have to go through steps to redeem yourself. And then if you did harm them in a way that it is money or financial, you need to pay that debt back, right? That is a true restorative process. Where it becomes punitive is when it's all this extra unnecessary jail time, when you're adding on extra fees and stuff that has nothing to do with that. Right, and then you hold it against me for the rest of my life. So you're never giving me a chance to restore myself, right? If we have the laws of the land and I violate a law, right, a just law, let's be clear,
Mm-hmm.
a just law, I should be held accountable for that, right? But in what capacity? In what capacity? And I feel as if sometimes people are being over disciplined, and that's why we have issues in the criminal justice system, and that's why people don't trust the criminal justice system to give us our due diligence and and the needs that we need to be okay in our community. Like that's why people don't want to participate.
I think you nailed it. I think that if you do your time and you're living in this community, the laws affect you. The folks who are governing us impact you. Why wouldn't you have a decision in that? And so making sure that we're separating the thing. If you're living in this country, I also feel some kind of way about folks who are incarcerated in their rights, but we could talk about that another day, about their right to also make sure that the laws work for them, because they too
Right.
but folks who have paid the time, who are in society, why wouldn't they have a say so? That
Right.
just seems so wrong to us, no matter what the situation is. While they're paying their restitution, they should still have a right, a say so, because they've been impacted. They are impacted by everything that happens in this country.
Right.
I want to switch gears and go to campaign. Talk about what's happening in the COVID world right now, in the campaigns that you're working on. I mean, we have August coming, we have November coming. Give us a solution, because we don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I don't know if I have all the solutions, but I could give y'all some strategy. One, I want to also just say on the last point is taxation without representation is against our civil rights as of American. Because if I have to pay taxes, I should be able to participate in decision making, period, point blank, right? And even while incarcerated, you're paying taxes.
Yep.
So therefore, you should be able to participate. Immigrants, what they call illegal immigrants, and I hate that term, they are even paying taxes, so they should be able to participate, right? That's American law. So if I'm not able to participate, run me my taxes back, period.
That part.
So nonetheless, COVID in this election. So one, this is the time for a lot of us in America, shit in the world. I don't know if I could cuss or not. Sorry. In the world that has ever had to deal with a global pandemic, right? I didn't know what to do. We were in the middle of GOTV. For those who that's to get out.
She's coming back. While we wait on V, I think she was saying they were in the middle of get out the vote. There you go.
Okay. So get out to vote. It's the time where we are out talking to a massive amount of folks about election, about participating, pushing people, what we call pushing them to the polls, pushing them to the polls. And we're in the midst of high power centric community right now. And you hear me?
I can hear you now.
There we go. My internet is my internet is a little shaky, y'all. So sorry.
No problem.
We had to pull our entire team off the street because of COVID.
This was in March.
Yeah, this was in March.
Right.
We pulled our entire team on March 15th. The election was March 17th. We had to pull everybody, readjust our strategy, and then also start preparing ourselves for how Black and brown and underserved folks were going to be disproportionately affected by the pandemic. Right? So we not only had to complete a campaign that we had in action, which was the primary, the presidential preference primary, to literally get that finished, but also in the same thinking through and processing what we need to put in place to make sure that our communities that we serve can survive this pandemic, right? Without even knowing how long this was going to last. Because I ain't gonna lie, I thought like we was gonna be on lockdown like 3 weeks or a month, and we was gonna be back out here. And now, what? 4 months later, we don't know when the world's gonna go back. It's what it's gonna be. So we are preparing 18th election. We've as you all seen, just like this platform, we pushed everything virtual. We have been encouraging folks to vote by mail, request your ballot. Going to the polls for some folks may be somewhat dangerous because COVID. So we're really suggesting folks and really encouraging folks to do the vote by mail. You can request your vote by mail ballot on any supervisor of the election website. You can also request it if you go to the newfloridamajority.org. They have steps to help you walk through that. And we encourage you to participate in all of these different platforms as we talk about politics. I know it's been extremely hard for candidates that I've seen because you can't really canvass. You can't really get to the people, right? So we are asking that people just try their hardest to be a part of the conversation in any way possible, but you do need to participate. Your vote does count. I want to just say, and I say it on this live and I say it all the time, if your vote did not matter, they would not be doing all the things in their power to stop you from doing it, y'all. It means something. It means something. So you need to participate. I'm participating, honey, because I just got my rights back anyway. So I'll be participating. But I do want to encourage people to use that. We know that's not the end all for liberation for Black people. That's not the end all to end racism. It's not the end all oppression, right? But it is a strategy in the right direction to get us there, right? As we do a multitude of other things. I want people to encourage to look into the candidates that you are seeing, right? It doesn't matter how often you see them, right? Because you could see a person every day and they don't mean you no good, right? You want to look into these places.
That was a word, V. That was a word.
Yeah. Because people are like, oh, I'm voting for this person. I'm voting for this person so that they can because I see them all the time. They're in my community and all these things. They don't mean anything.
That's nice.
The great Talmadge Fair, the president of the Urban League, he always says, if they passing out turkeys in your community, they screwing you over in Tallahassee. And I never understood what he was saying until I got into the work. Because, like, I don't necessarily need you to pass out turkeys, because if you was doing your job correctly, elected official, I can have the resources to buy my own turkey.
Right.
And I'm not knocking those who do, those acts of kindness, right? Because it does feel good. and it is a direct response. But also on top of you passing out this turkey, what are you doing so that I don't have to come stand in this damn line and swallow my pride to have to come beg you for free food? What are you? Go ahead.
Let me go there. So I was talking to an elected from Palm Beach, and we had a conversation following. And he sits on the county. Following the conversation, I got word that Palm Beach County was sending PPE to the entire county. And so I said, it's nice that folks can be in the community, but look at a time like COVID. You need folks who can lead, who understands the needs of communities. And look, it's not for the weak right now. You got to be able to lead in COVID time. Budgets are being slashed. And so if you don't have folks who can really understand needs of communities, I mean, for a long time, they were having food distribution with drive up only when folks who ain't got cars. You got folks who can't get access, want to talk about your mutual fund because the Smile Trust is doing amazing things, but you got folks who can't get access to mutual fund dollars because people want to ask immigration status in Miami. Are you kidding me?
Right.
But these are the things where check your leadership because it means a lot to be leaders right now. It's not enough to do turkeys. It's not enough to be seen at churches and in parks. You really got to lead right now.
Right. And that's super important. Like, I want people to really realize who's been present, right? And not just like I said, passing out the book bag or coming to your house with a box of food, but like, who are the people that's in Tallahassee fighting for your unemployment? People who are up there fighting to make sure they extend this moratorium on these utilities, who's fighting for this rent moratorium so that you are not evicted in the middle of a pandemic, who is fighting to make sure we have testing centers in our communities. Those are the people you need to vote for in whatever capacity you see fit. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I'm going to give you some things that should help you calculate on who you should vote for, right? Because it's more important the fact of like, hey, this person is fighting for my unemployment. He's fighting for a stimulus check, or she's fighting for housing, right? And these are the things that I need right now to survive, right? And yes, a turkey would be great because we like to eat turkey, right? But then a turkey lasts you, 2 days, depending on how big your family is. But an unemployment process that's done correctly can help you survive for the rest of the year.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So we want people to think about that. People who are not in Tallahassee or DC who are just giving big bailout dollars to these big corporations. How is this money trickling down to our community? How are everyday working class people or elderly or disabled folks or formerly incarcerated folks getting what they need to survive now? Because we are getting the brunt of it all. We are getting it in our communities left and right, like even having to push the conversation on how they distribute food, right? Why is it that you need all of this information to get food? Why do you need all of this stuff? Like, why are you doing all of the things around like all these requirements to get mutual aid? And then honestly, there we go. I was just about to say it. We're in the middle of hurricane season, right? So we are dealing with a multitude of things. We're dealing with the pandemic, this whole fight around our voting rights, a whole fight around our of us keeping people safe. Right. And then on top of that, we are in the middle of hurricane season, right?
I mean, you can just see our homes just got dark out of nowhere because it's about to go down.
Yeah, like it's going down like out the door, literally right now. If you're not in South Florida, like it's been a mess. And then we're gauged to deal with, I think they say we're expecting at least 18 storms. Not all of them are going to hit South Florida, but one of them it's probably going to, or two of them. And imagine the fact that South Florida is also a hub for the international South. And when I say international South, I'm talking about the Caribbean islands, Mexico, and South America, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people who live here are from places like Haiti, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Bahamas, Venezuela, Puerto Rico. Like that's our community. That's our community. So not only in South Florida are we dealing with this BS when it comes to policy and politics and elections, right? But we're also dealing with the fact that, like, I need to make sure that I'm safe, that I can help people back home, right? And that's a real thing. And I'm just super nervous right now about, like, how are we going to prepare to respond to? How are we going to prepare to survive these things in the middle of a pandemic? Like, how are we doing it? And what's so scary is I have not seen a model of it in yet. You know, like who has survived it? What is the thing? And I am quite concerned that if we are not diligent on who we elect, we're going to end up in this situation again. Because this is not going to be the only pandemic, right? This in some other countries, especially the continent of Asia, they've been dealing with pandemics for forever. They go through this almost every other year, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they know how to handle it. Not saying that one is better than the other, because they have their own issues as a government there. However, they know how to control disease, and we don't know how to do that yet in America, apparently, you know. And I need us to figure that shit out, because people are dying, and not everybody is dying from COVID. But at the same time, we don't know when kids going back to school. We don't know how people are going to work, and then the financial crisis we're about to go through, right? Sometimes it could take 3 to 4 years on coming back around. You know who y'all should have on here next?
Who?
Her name is Joanne Paradine. I think that's how you say it. Huh?
New FM?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only is she over our climate justice work, but she's a brilliant Haitian woman, speak multitude of languages, but she has actually responded to global pandemics in other countries before, right? She's born and raised in Haiti. She did a lot of work after the earthquake in Haiti. Like, she's amazing. This is her skill set, and I think she can give a great gender lens of it all. Yeah, so I just always pick her up, because like she walks me through the conversation around the pandemic. Like, how do we move during the election? What do we should be doing during the uprising when the police are murdering innocent Black people in the middle of a pandemic? Like, how do we respond? How do we get justice? Feed our people? How do we stay safe while feeding our people? And she has a lot of answers around that. So she's just a good resource that I use personally at all times. Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. I actually met Joanne before she moved to Miami. We were part of a group called She Builds. And then I saw her at New FM. I'm like, wait, you live here now? I forget where she was living before that, but that's such a great idea. We'll definitely have her on. But I think you nailed it. And in the next few minutes, we'll definitely ask folks if they have any questions. Go ahead and drop them in the live so that we can answer them. But we're experiencing a lot right now.
Yep.
We were experiencing the pandemic that we don't have in sight. Folks haven't been working. And I like to go there and say that not only have folks not been working, they're living in homes that, you know, when you think about the housing stock in Miami, it's something that Miami Workers Center have been talking about for quite some time. There's mildew, there's roaches, there's rodents, because their landlords are not taking care of these buildings. We also know that the cost of housing is extremely expensive in Miami. So you have families who may be 5 and 6 household sizes in 2 rooms. So folks are on top of each other. They're frustrated. They're not happy. You know, there's no relief in sight. And so this is like what we would consider a perfect storm. And we need leadership. And so this is why I'm going to go ahead and plug. If you haven't taken the census, take the census, my20.gov. If you haven't registered to vote, the deadline to register for the August primary is July 20th. It's right around the corner. Go ahead and register. We need all hands on deck, because, you know, our survivals are tied to one another. We got to make it together. And I think to V's point earlier around leadership, you know, I think it's time. It's more essential right now to ensure that we have the right folks in leadership. Why? Because these folks are going to make critical decisions. Like, these are going to be hard decisions to make. You know, Florida's budget is going to be cut. We don't have any tourism coming in.
Right.
How are those decisions going to be made? We need to make decisions and think about us, right? And so those are all the things that we need to be thinking about right now. Because if we mess around and not elect the right folks, listen, it's going to be bad for us for decades.
For decades. Because the damage that's being done right now is going to affect us in the long run. Like, I am very, very concerned about the outcome of everything. like right now, people are still staying afloat, but like we're about to start seeing poverty in levels that we never saw before. Um, we are about to start dealing with situations that we never saw before. The food banks are still full. That don't mean they're gonna be full for the duration of this year. We know that people can pay some bills right now, but that's not going to be the case long term. Some people may be out of work for 2 to 3 years after this, right? We have a lot of people who were employing folks who are closing down for good because of COVID.
60% of small businesses may not come back.
Right. And that is a huge thing. Especially like a place like Florida, who is like the home of entrepreneurship. A lot of people don't understand. A lot of people are employed through entrepreneurs here, which is a great thing in the grand scheme of things, right? However, it's not as a good thing when some situation happens like this, and an entrepreneur or a small business is not getting the bailout dollars, like said your, bigger corporations and things like that. It is a lot of election information events. I see a comment on the live, and a lot more of those are coming. I'm quite sure the Workers Center will probably be doing some throughout the next few months. New Florida Majority is doing a few also. We'll get the information out to you.
And making sure that, we like to say each one reach one, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. We really got to make sure that folks are turning out this year in a big way. Vote who you need to vote for, but making sure that we are involved and that we understand that there's a lot at stake. We always say that, but there's really a lot at stake right now. If there aren't any questions, I'm not sure if there are any questions on the interpretation lines, flag me. We're going to go into our final conversation. If there aren't any questions on the live, or if there aren't any comments that are showing up. Thumbs up for no comments on the interpretation line. Okay, perfect. So, Valencia, what haven't we talked about that we definitely should address before we go with the rest of our day?
Yeah, so hurricane season is a real thing. It's happening right now. We need everybody to start purchasing their hurricane supplies right now. It's already like when I walk in a grocery store, I'll be seeing a limited amount of water, a limited amount of tissue, and all the things. So, like, if you all can, little bit by little bit, like when you go to the grocery store this weekend to buy your food for your family, buy 2 extra bottles of water, buy a pack of batteries, buy it piece by piece, so it won't hit you all at one time. And then we already know the stores are going to be empty if a storm comes, right? I was just telling a friend yesterday, like I started to buy stuff for my house, right? Just me, like just start stockpiling little bit by little bit. And then also we are going to be launching our Community Emergency Operations Center, which Miami Workers Center is a part of that too. And actually the building, the actual office is actually one of our hubs, our community hubs that service Liberty City. We are going to try our hardest to assist as many people as we possibly can, but we need you to participate and be a part of hurricane season. New Florida Majority has just launched a map on our website to educate people on where they could find resources for hurricane season. So that's newfloridamajority.org. So we want to make sure people are preparing for hurricane season as best as possible. And I'm going to push again to make sure that you all have Joanne on, because Joanne will come in and run down the whole hurricane preparedness thing in the COVID conversation. I think that'll be great for hurricane preparedness. And then as it pertains to the election, get your vote by mail ballots. We need you to get those things. We need you to register to vote. We need you to find out if you're eligible to vote. I saw a comment saying that you can, the judge can override, but that's only in Miami-Dade County. Let's be very clear. It's not something that's statewide. It's something we're fighting statewide, but it's not something that we did statewide as of yet. But it is very true in Miami-Dade County. You can actually go to the courts and request it, and they'll override the fines and fees to give you your rights to vote so you can register. But it is something that has not been effective in all of our counties across the state yet. So continue to be a part of the fight. Stay involved. Stay super involved. Stay coming to these type of platforms. Stay asking questions. Stay attending events. And also, lastly, be very open to what I would call mutual aid. Um, the mutual aid fund is on at mthsmile.com. We have two separate mutual aid funds that are on the website. One is the Smile Trust with Mutual Aid Fund. We are servicing Miami-Dade County and the entire Atlanta, Georgia, right? Because that's what we do all of our business. You can apply for those things. There's a few questions on there you need to answer. And we try to do what we call drops once a week. And then we have the not the Black Collective, the Collective Mutual Aid Fund, which is a partnership between the Miami Climate Alliance, Black Collective, and the Smile Trust. Both of those mutual aid opportunities are on the website, on Smile Trust website, which is the one that was just dropped into the chat. Apply, y'all. It's not the most money, but it's a $75 stipend. One of them is a $50 stipend, one is a $75 stipend. We send it electronically. We send it through Cash App, Zelle, or PayPal. We don't ask you to give us no receipts on it or whatnot. Only thing we ask you is to try your hardest to help your neighbor, help other people in your family as much as you can. We try, so we want those things. And then we have Black August coming up. Black August is exactly what you think it is. It's everything Black, where we celebrate and we have political discussion about the Black diaspora. So the Black Collective is coming forward with a whole bunch of political education workshops that you all can participate in August. And just be a part of everything that you possibly can. If you have the time, if you have the space and the resources, participate and assist, because it's very, very important that we stay connected to each other and uplift one another and work in partnership. That's super, super important. As you all notice, I keep saying all these different organizations' names. The Lord said that I don't have a single issue fight because I don't live a single issue life. And I'm talking about Audre Lorde, right? One of the most amazing badass Black feminists ever that's been in our lifetime. And that's how I do my work. And that's how we do our work. The Miami Worker Center, the New Florida Majority, Power U, Soul Sisters, Dream Defenders, Green Haven Project. I mean, I could list down organizations that I work in partnership with, because I can't do this work alone. Worker Center can't do it alone. New Florida Majority can't do it alone. And we don't try to. We need we need everybody's help to be able to get to our common goal. And that's liberation from oppression, white supremacy, capitalism, and patriarchy, period, point. And as it pertains to, because Miami Worker Center is like the house for feminism, and I love that. I want people to know and understand, when we're talking about liberation, we're not just talking about liberation for our Blackness, right? Because if we end racism tomorrow, which I know one day we are going to end racism. Absolutely. I am also concerned that the rest of me won't be liberated, right? Me being a woman, me being a lesbian, right? Be able to liberate all of us, all of me, right? Everything about me, my economic status needs to be liberated. So that's how do we redistribute wealth in America? How do we fight against patriarchy, right? How am I able to participate in this world without any of me being oppressed, right? That's why we use the word liberation, and that's a extension of the word liberty, right? How do I live in my full freedom without harming the next person? We could figure that out because we once did it before. White supremacy hasn't always been a thing. Patriarchy is the longest form of oppression, right? So when people are like, why is feminism being compared to da-da-da-da-da? Because we've been fighting patriarchy longer than we've been fighting white supremacy, right? And even though we could break the back of white supremacy, patriarchy is going to stand tall, right? And we have to be able to fight all of those systems of oppression and continue to reimagine what our world looks like. So continue to participate. I do not have no information about these stimulus checks, honey. I didn't get one yet, and I'm in my feelings.
I'm gonna chime in really quickly on the check. Thank you so much, Valencia. I've always admired you. You're a badass. I love people who talk too much because I talk too much too. And I'm so happy to have you on this platform. Miami Worker Center brought back our Fem Saturdays. We want to continue to do this work to center Black women in Fem, Black and brown women in Fem, and make sure that not only that we share our platforms with you, but also celebrate all the amazing work that you're doing. To Najarek's point about the stimulus check, while we don't necessarily have a mutual aid fund, we have been providing mutual aid to domestic workers. And folks who are, so if you know any domestic workers, folks who are working as home health aides, nannies, babysitters, folks who have lost their jobs because this care community or this care industry is really going under, please reach out to the Miami Worker Center because we're doing a lot of work. And also as they return with the domestic workers and as they return to work, we're also helping to ensure that they understand how to keep themselves safe. And how to have these conversations with their bosses that are basically head of households. And so any mutual aid for domestic workers, we can definitely share that with folks and talk to our partners and making sure that people can get aid. The HEROES Act, which is what we're pushing for in the next stimulus check. There's a few actions that are going to happen next week. The National Domestic Worker Alliance is really pushing us to be in communications with Senator Marco Rubio. Currently, he is not supporting the HEROES Act. If he knew what his state was made up of, he would support the. He tries to act like he doesn't know, but call Marco Rubio's office, blow him up, tweet him, Facebook him, have him support the HEROES Act because they have just a few weeks before Congress goes into recess. And so we need this decision to happen now. There's a lot of folks putting pressure on them to include immigrants in this round, immigrants who do pay their taxes, to include care, domestic care work, to include folks who are home with their kids, to make sure that more folks can get access to these dollars. And so that's what we're pushing for, Najaret. There's no guarantees right now. We don't know what Congress is going to do. Not only Congress, I also think that we should be also putting the pressure on our local government at the state level and at the county level and the cities, because they are getting passed through some dollars. And we would like to know exactly what they're doing with those dollars, because more of those dollars could be used to help individual families as well. So call your city officials, call the county, make sure you call your commissioners, let them know, look, we want to know what's happening with these dollars. We're going to call the state too, continue to pressure Governor DeSantis not only extend the moratorium, but to put dollars in folks' hands. And then Senator Marco Rubio, blow him up, let him know that his community needs this stimulus check because a lot of folks are hurting right now.
Right.
If there aren't any other questions, we're going to wrap up. I want you to tell folks, where can people find you? How can they talk to you if they have any questions? I don't think you're on Facebook. I tried to ask you, but.
So I deactivated for a few days because I've been like over communicating, but it'll be active again on Monday. I had to do a fast for 7 days. But you can find me on social media, all platforms, Valencia Gunther. Literally just my first and last name. No dot in between, no nothing, just Valencia Gunther. And then you can also find or follow the work that I do on any of the partners' website, but specifically at my political homes at the Black Collective .org, newfloridamajority.org, and mthsmile.com. And if you want to know more information about the Black Mama Bailout, if you want to do your own bailout, we support that too. You can find out information about that at nbonationalbailout.org to participate in that. Stuff around hurricane season, you can find at mthsmile.com and also newfloridamajority.org. And Miami Worker Center, because they're one of our hubs. So after a storm, if you all need assistance, that will be a place where you can seek assistance in whatever capacity we have. And if you want to be down with Dignity, we have a Instagram, Dignity Florida. All of these organizations I named, their social media is that the New Florida Majority, the Black Collective, Miami Worker Center, and Smile Trust. Like, it's literally the name. You can find them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Join us, be a part of it, keep up with what's going on, and I hope to see y'all out here in the field.
Absolutely. And Valencia, you're amazing. They say give flowers now. For sure, you're amazing. You are a gift to us. Thanks for everything that you do and everything that you are. We celebrate you and we thank you for being with the Miami Worker Center this morning. Again, Miami Worker Center is a strategy and action center. We do our work at the intersection of gender, race, as well as economic status. So anything that's impacting Black and brown folks, anything that's impacting women and femme, all things that have impacted poor people, Miami Worker Center really want to push and get out. We thank you so much. Thank you to our listeners. We'll share out this live more on our platforms. Valencia, find her everywhere, social media, invite her, pay her, do all that good stuff. Make sure that she can not only thrive because we love her, but that you all can put some money in her pocket as well. Thanks so much, B. Appreciate you. And that's all for Femme Saturday. We will do this every second Saturday of the month. Following this session, we have a private cohort, the Femme Power Fellowship, that begins at 12. So we'll see our fellows at 12 o'clock. Again, thank you for watching and have a great rest of your day.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.